Hi there, this is Christian from Spitfire Audio. Delighted today to have a little tutorial about how to build epic drum patterns. I'm going to be using the fantastic new Hans Zimmer percussion library that we released a couple of days ago. So I'll just give you a quick run through of what I'm starting with. This is actually basically, I'm going to try and recreate a demo I did a couple of days back called Dawn Z, which is available on our site, spitfireaudio.com. What I've done is I've just kind of harvested the musical elements of that demo, so we don't have to go through all that. So I've got some nice tense strings, some cool synths over there. I'm using Iceni, Albion 3 Iceni, to produce some really heinous bass sounds. Iceni has an amazing collection of basses that are derived from orchestral sessions. So this is actually built from a chimbasso, which is a kind of a cross between a tuba and a contrabass trombone. It gives a really raspy sound, but through some processing it sounds pretty awesome. I make it hairy because I like music to sound hairy, so a bit of Logic distortion, and it's a cheap plugin, but the spreader just for that kind of out of phase noise. I've spent most of my career trying to work out how to orchestrate stuff like Steve Reich, who's my absolute favourite composer. I saw him at the Festival Hall actually last week, just like being in the company of Mozart. And I found that a great way to do the kind of chuggy strings is to actually use our Albion with the ostinatum in chord mode. Just do some 16ths like that, and you get these great little chugs. Just have a little go on that. I'm also using the wood shorts in Albion 1, which is, I think, worth the price of admission alone. They're absolutely sensational. You'll notice that I've got a high pass. One of the characteristics of the hall at Air Studios, where we record all this stuff, is that you get quite a kind of a low kind of rumble noise floor, which isn't really... You don't really notice it with just a couple, but when you start really repeating yourself, you get this build, subby build, so I'm just cutting that. I also figured out that if you shape a tremolo like this, take the phase out, you can kind of imitate the vocal techniques that Steve Reich uses. Certainly in I think if you were to check out the desert music, you'll certainly see the inspiration for John Williams' score for Minority Report. Sounds quite synthy in isolation, but when you do the whole lot together, it can be quite convincing. I'm going to freeze these because this capture software is meaning that my system resources are a bit challenged, especially seeing as I'm on one of those. So it's quite an old Mac, I think it's 2008. Okay, so quick freeze. So let's start with kind of a low, big drum. As I said, if you want to do that cinematic percussion stuff, this, I think, is going to become the definitive tool. Hans has recorded this with a huge number of microphones from different perspectives and in different parts of the hall. I'm going to start up with this bass drum gallery, and the gallery refers to, it's kind of like a minstrel's gallery above the hall, but it has a strange kind of ceiling that lips over the top of it that makes the space actually feel quite small. So it's like a small space in a large space. When you pull up just this mic here, which is what it'll load up with, you'll hear it's a huge distance from the microphones. It's almost over a hill and far away. So with Hans Zimmer's mixes, which are sensational, especially the close mics, you get a much more direct signal. And then I'm going to use these surround feeds, which ironically, because the drum is actually away from the main recording area, these mics are actually closer to the drum. Okay, so let's play something in. So I'm going to be quite cheap and just basically do a big cut and paste on that. If I go down to the taikos, these are an amazing ensemble. Again, part of the same library. I've got this mix selection. just going to copy that into that. And then another taiko there, which is the solo low taiko. Again, you'll see that I've had a fiddle with the different mic positions and just kind of get it so it sounds right. I think it's fine to have a variety of perspectives so that some musicians sound far further away from you than, say, this chap. Might be a bit closer than they're kind of further away still. Okay, so let's have a look at how that sounds as an ensemble. It's going to be pretty fat. Great. Let's just copy that across. Bit of a tart, cut and paste. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use timpanis, but played quite unusually with hot rods, which are those things that drummers use kind of halfway between a stick and a brush. They're a small number of little sticks bound together. Do is I'm going to introduce a bit of delay and a bit of top end to actually use this more like a kind of shaker. Do that to 16 Bs as well. So I'm actually working on a beta. This is not actually the release version, so the timps were a little bit laggy. They've been tightened up for the release. Much brighter sounding drum here, which is a low boom, again up in the gallery. I've used that mic selection again, and I think a way of underused tool for getting kind of clarity in one's mixes and arrangements is the pan pot. Very famous producer once played me a track and I couldn't believe the backing vocals sounded like they were coming from behind you, and he said, no, I just hard pan them left and right so you can hear them. So I don't think I think that we hate sacrificing that amazing stereo image of the sample itself, but I mean it'll really cut through. So I just slowly starting to build a bit of a dynamic here. Do a little change. Whoopsie daisy. Okay, great. And are we going to do any other? Save those for later. Yeah, save that stuff for later. Okay, let's save that all for later. Now what I want to do is, so it's not just a kind of cut and paste job. I want to make it, actually, I'll tell you what we need to do. Actually, it's slightly poorly arranged. I think need to do. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is just copy this section in. Oopsie. When I kind of analyse what I do, it always amazes me that I can churn out so much stuff so quickly because I'm quite clumsy. Okay, so I'm going to start making this a bit of an arrangement by adjusting some dynamics. So I want it to start kind of slightly more marauding and mysterious. Lovely kind of low start. I want to do a bit more of a Q&A, so make that really quiet. I've done a little cheeky thing where I've taken the low boom and I've tuned it down nearly an octave. So I might just, for starters, do a little bit of this as well. I don't actually like that little answering thing, but I do like the fact that we don't play it on that low thing straight away. These can be quieter as well, and what we'll do is we'll play around with the pounding. So I've got the low booms, the kind of accents that we did before, and then this great, it's a very primitive sounding dun-dun, but we found it sounded a bit world music-y, so we put a newspaper on the top, and the effect is great, and you can get a lot of detail out of them. So let's put this. Section with this infuriating tempo change. And that'll be part C. So let's this is a high taiko. Still a big old drum. They're made from a single bit of wood, so they're impossibly heavy to lift. So this is the... Actually, no, that's the low taiko. Let's have a look. High taiko, there we are. So start investigating this more stickier sounds. That sounds good. Mystery with that. Just a little roll. So now I'm going to build up a slightly different pattern. I think what I might try and do is actually kind of work this live. There. Let's just have another go at that bar up there. Hey, off you go. Whoa, what's going on there? Actually, I'm just not amazingly happy with that bar either. So let's have another go. What's worth mentioning is we've kept all of these drums with a kind of a unified, so that the keys don't run kind of chronologically. We've set up a C and a D down here are always going to be the hits. These are always going to be the softs. These are always going to be the sticks. These are always going to be the Pulis. But you'll go to some things, and we haven't recorded those simply because they didn't sound very good or weren't suitable. What it does mean is by having a unified set of keys, when you can copy something like this onto a drum that doesn't have the sticks, but it doesn't play some other wrong drums, or it doesn't have gaps where in the hits, if you know what I mean. So not very well explained that, but let's see what that sounds like now. I think it probably might be a bit too loud. Okay, good. Let's get our little timp shakers in, and we'll start getting some more interesting stuff in a sec. That was dull. So we actually had a bit of a key change there. Oh, this is getting fun. Okay, so the bucket section is a selection of instruments that are combined with a steel bucket. So we've got buckets with darbukas, buckets with hand vices, that kind of stuff. They're a great way of masking something that has a kind of you have a preconception about. So military snares, they tend to have a kind of very Western European kind of sound. So by combining with the metal bucket, it gives it just a slightly edgier sound, so it doesn't sound like we're doing a kind of necessarily a military track. So I'm going to venture in the world of the 32s now, so let's have a little go. Just going to do one more time, I don't think it was consistent. So let's do a little bit of a cheeky, and then I think you'll be quite surprised to hear the effect these have. Yes, we're going to do it. So I might actually just copy that and see what it sounds like. Oh yeah. Last hit there. Where is, yeah. There we go. Okay, so then that one, and then I think the big accent drum as well. This interesting triplet thing going on there, so I'm going to have another. I've just listened back to that. So if we quantize that like that, that's okay. I'm going to have another go at that. Too far back. Scheißen. Yeah, I think that's interesting. Kind of just a slight shift in the meter there. Let's see what that sounds like. Great. Starting to distort the bus, which is I'm always happy to do. Interesting. Identity to that snare with this sound. A little bit more, I guess, scale. You can hear the different players, different beaters. Okay, so we need to start kind of building a bit of a, as I used to refer to it in good old drum and bass days, a bit of a rinse out. Okay, so those are going to be some accents. I think we need to actually move away from the lower sounding drums and do something a little bit more kind of mid-rangey. Now these are great from the exotic range. These are some tombecks. Again, you can really hear the numbers of players there, so let's start building that up, I think, from... those in until this point. These nuts boo bands, which kind of started featuring in cinematic music from the 1950s when swing band percussionists started using them. I think they're from the Pacific. Okay. What's happened? I've actually quantized that to 24s, which is not what we need. Let's go 16B, pull back the delay a bit because they're a bit laggy. These aren't, no? Okay. I've tuned a goblet up. By over an octave, so this usually sounds. I might do a kind of slightly bangery, slight pattern on the top. Let's have a little listen to what I can do with this. nasally. Big bang that. Whoa. Yeah, I'm still a bit uncertain about this instrument. To me, it's just making it sounding a bit kind of tribal. So I might again try just sort of a bit cooler that. Okay. So I think that's good for jazz. I think there's one little thing I'd like to add. It's actually an audio. Just put out this bus, which I'll explain in a sec. This is actually from our new range pylons, this is a Moog Voyager doing a boom, which I've time stretched because I really love the noise of a time stretched sine wave. It adds all sorts of odd artifacts. Bit of splosh. Actually outboard. I use a TC6000 for splosh. Always asked what's the best reverb. I don't think you can answer that question, but it is certainly, in my experience, the reverb that is used on 90% of film scores, certainly the A-list film scores. I would say close to 100%. So if you want it to sound like the movies, TC6000 or the VSS3, which is a TC power core, which has been discontinued. So worth picking up an old power core to get the VSS3, which is just an amazing algorithm. The same algorithm, but stereo version as the TC6000, which is surround. Right. Now, for the sake of just finishing up, I'm just going to do a quick mastering job on this. This is what I would do if I were to present to a client. So I've basically all of these instruments I've put out to this bus here. And the first thing I'm going to need to do is actually pull it down so it's not distorting. So let's hear it in isolation. Sounding good, but what we'll do is with most of this kind of deep bassy stuff, the first thing I do, especially with these kind of drums, is in order to get some more efficiency out of it, is just take the very bottom off. So with a big Q, so that's a real slicing the bottom off, just take it down to where we stop hearing, which is I think around there. I'm not entirely sure, so I'm sure someone will. So no real audible difference there, and you'll just find that you'll be able to turn it up more. Now with a lot of these wood clacks, we've got a kind of. Let's go. Because I'm a tart, so just duck that back a little bit so we don't get too much of that woody sound. Okay, just going to add a tickle of compression. And I'm a big fan of the Waves Renaissance stuff. Big fan, and have been using it for ages, so it's just almost got a muscle memory for it, including picking presets, naughty. I find these drum attacks really too quick, so I'm going to go up to about that, and hopefully it'll mean that the compressor will bite slightly after the drum has been hit, so it gives a bit more bite. Great. And then again, as I've said repeatedly today, because I'm a bit of a tart, because we can, and because we care. There's nothing clever about that. It's just basically a loudness lever. So that's great. I don't want to do anything with that other than just take the very bottom off, because it'll make the mix more efficient. Okay, high pass, big Q. Whoops. Back we go. And that. And then the orchestra, bus 12. Yeah, okay, I'm just going to give it a little bit of sprinkle. So, again, taking off the very bottom. And it's just a bit of, I want to get more of that of the voices out, so that I think will be quite pretty. And again, I just it's like cooking. If you kind of season every step of the way, the end result is always so much nicer. And then I'll do a master compression, master bus stuff, which will be that and that and the L3. Okay. This always sounds quite good, the fat setting, and then let's just take it back just a notch, and then a bit of that. So I'm just going to tweak with these as we're playing. Finally, I just think that the balance isn't quite right there, so I'm going to... Someone just came in. I think I'm happy for now. Now, I've done this demo in, or I don't know, is it half an hour, something like that? So the demo Z, sorry, the Dawn Z that's online, now that took about 6 hours. So it's a lot more tickling and shaping and working out a kind of internal kind of conversation between different drum groups and all that kind of stuff, alongside a much more kind of forensic approach to the mastering. But certainly what I've done today is certainly the kind of speed I would work when demoing up for a client. And where the mastering is concerned, I think it's important to do these days, because they'll often A/B with their temp track, and say if that temp track's done by hands, it's going to be mastered, it's going to be an efficient mix, it's going to be loud. So I think it's important, even if it does kind of flatten out the dynamics and the kind of snappiness of the demos, I think it is quite important to give it a little tickle before you send it out. I know that I recently did a session which was 9 hours with a 70-piece orchestra, and it was kind of, my first mix of it was rejected outright, and it's simply because it wasn't turned up loud enough. It was running at about -9 dB was where it was peaking. So I think it's very, you have to be very wary about that kind of stuff. So let's just play this down and have a listen, and hope you enjoyed the show. Sorry about waffling and all that kind of stuff.